I was sitting on my bedroom floor, sorting through Gordon's old sweaters 3 years after losing him, when my phone rang. The number showed Pinnacle Bank Fraud Department. My chest tightened before I even answered. The woman on the line asked if I had authorized a $670,000 withdrawal attempt. $670,000. That was everything. 42 years of teaching third graders. Gordon's life insurance. Our retirement dreams. She said the card was used at Premier Motors luxury dealership 15 minutes ago by my son, Derek, and his girlfriend, Brielle. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. The 12-minute drive to Premier Motors felt like crawling through mud. Every red light was torture. How did Derek get that card? I kept it in my desk drawer, in an envelope marked Important Documents. I had not touched that account in months. It was my safety net, my security, the only thing standing between me and complete vulnerability in my old age. Premier Motors sat on the corner of Belmont and Fifth, all glass windows and gleaming chrome. The kind of place where they serve you espresso while you browse vehicles that cost more than most people make in 5 years. Derek's navy blue pickup truck was parked right out front, and seeing it made my stomach clench. This was real. This was actually happening. I pulled into the lot, my old sedan looking shabby among the luxury cars, and rushed toward the entrance. Through the windows I could see them. Derek, my 38-year-old son, standing tall with his arm draped around Brielle's shoulders. She was taking selfies with a silver Mercedes SUV, her phone held high, posing like she had already bought the thing. The SUV had red leather interior. I could see it through the open door. Red leather. The showroom smelled like new car and expensive cologne. My sneakers squeaked on the polished floor. Derek saw me first. His face went from proud to shocked in an instant. "Mom," he said. "What are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" My voice came out higher than I wanted. "Derek, how did you get my bank card?" Brielle stepped behind Derek, her whole demeanor changing. The giddy, excited woman from 30 seconds ago disappeared. Now she looked cold, calculating. Her eyes narrowed at me like I was an intruder. A man in a gray suit approached from a desk near the back. His name tag read Harold Finch, sales manager. He looked uncomfortable, holding a tablet in one hand and my card in the other. My card. The blue one with the sailboat on it that Gordon had picked out because he always wanted to buy a boat someday. "Mrs. Dalton?" Harold said carefully. "Could I speak with you for a moment?" "I asked you a question, Derek. I was not letting this go. How did you get my card?" Derek ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized from his childhood when he was caught doing something wrong. "Mom, you gave it to me. Remember, last month when you had pneumonia? You were really sick, and you asked me to keep it safe for you." I stared at him. Last month. 6 weeks ago. I had been sick with pneumonia. That was true. The doctor had given me antibiotics and strong cough medicine that made me sleep for hours. But I would remember giving Derek my bank card. I would remember that. "You said Brielle might need a reliable car for her new job," Derek continued, his voice smooth and reasonable. "You said we should pick something nice, something safe." I never said that. But even as the words left my mouth, doubt crept in. Had I? The pneumonia had been bad. I lost almost a week to fever and medication fog. There were gaps in my memory from that time. "Mrs. Dalton," Harold interrupted gently, "I need to explain something. I froze the transaction because this card has a special designation. It is flagged as a protected elderly account with cognitive safeguards built into it. Any transaction over $50,000 requires a notarized authorization form and 2 forms of secondary verification. Your bank set this up specifically to prevent financial exploitation of vulnerable adults." The words hit me like cold water. Protected elderly account. I had set that up myself. 2 years ago, after reading an article about seniors losing their life savings to scams and family manipulation, I had marched into Pinnacle Bank and asked them to set up every safeguard they offered. And then, in my grief and stress, I had completely forgotten about it. Derek's face changed. The reasonable, concerned son expression melted away, replaced by something harder. Angry. "This is ridiculous," he said. "She is losing it. She does not remember things anymore. She forgets appointments. She forgot my sister's birthday last month." She obviously does not remember giving me the card. Brielle started crying, actual tears running down her face. You never liked me anyway, she said to me, her voice breaking. You have always treated me like I am not good enough for Derek. This is just another way to control him. I am taking my card back. I held out my hand to Harold. He looked between me and Derek, clearly wishing he was anywhere else, then handed me the card. It felt warm from being in his hand. Derek, we need to talk, privately. I turned and walked out, my legs unsteady. Behind me, I heard Derek say something to Brielle, his voice low and angry. Then footsteps following me across the showroom floor. The afternoon sun was bright in the parking lot. I made it to my car before Derek caught up with me. Mom, stop. I turned. My son stood 3 feet away, and I barely recognized the look on his face. You just embarrassed me and Brielle in there, in front of that manager. Do you have any idea how that feels? Derek, that is my money, my life savings. You cannot just take my card and try to buy a car that costs probably $80,000 without even asking me. I did ask you. His voice rose. You just do not remember. And you know what? Brielle is pregnant. We are having a baby, your grandchild. And she deserves a safe, reliable car. She deserves something nice. Pregnant. The word knocked the air out of my lungs. A grandchild. Derek, if Brielle is pregnant, that is wonderful. But you should have talked to me about this properly, not just taken my card and... You are going to regret this, Mom. His voice went quiet. Deadly quiet. Brielle's father is a lawyer, Lawrence Hartwell. Maybe you have heard of him. We will prove you are mentally incompetent and get control of everything. For your own protection, of course. Because clearly you cannot manage your own affairs anymore. He turned and walked back toward the dealership, leaving me standing there with my mouth open. My own son had just threatened me, threatened to have me declared incompetent, threatened to take everything. I got in my car and sat there for 5 minutes before I could make my hands steady enough to drive home. That evening I called Derek 3 times. Each call went straight to voicemail. I left messages apologizing for the public confrontation, saying we should talk, asking him to call me back. Nothing. Radio silence. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Derek's face in that parking lot, heard his voice saying, "You are going to regret this." By the next morning, I decided to try a different approach. I would offer to help them with a reasonable gift for the baby. Maybe $10,000 or $15,000. Something that showed I supported them without being taken advantage of. I was trying to be the bigger person, trying to fix this before it got worse. I had no idea it was already too late. The first call came from my cousin Rachel, at 8:30 that morning. "Jerry, what is going on with you and Derek? I saw something on Facebook." My stomach dropped. "What did you see?" "Just some posts about toxic family members and financial abuse from elders who hoard money. It did not mention names, but people are talking. Is everything okay?" I pulled up Facebook on my computer with trembling fingers. There it was. Derek had posted a long, vague statement about how hard it is when older family members refuse to help their children and grandchildren, when they sit on money they will never use while younger generations struggle. Brielle had shared it with her own commentary about emotional manipulation and control issues. They did not name me, but they did not have to. Anyone who knew our family would figure it out within minutes. Over the next 3 days, it got worse. More posts, more vague accusations. Friends started calling to ask what happened. Neighbors gave me strange looks when I checked my mail. At the grocery store, Mrs. Henderson from my church actually turned her cart around to avoid me in the cereal aisle. On the 3rd day, my daughters called within an hour of each other. Patricia, my oldest at 42, called first. "Mom, I talked to Derek. What happened at that car dealership?" I explained everything. The card, the dealership, the protection on my account, Derek's threat. Patricia listened without interrupting. "Mom, I believe you. Derek has been acting strange lately. I think Brielle is a bad influence on him." Relief flooded through me. At least one of my children was on my side. Then Susan called. Susan, my youngest daughter at 40, had always been closer to Derek than to Patricia. They were only 2 years apart and had been thick as thieves growing up. Susan had married a businessman and moved to the wealthy part of town. She had different ideas about money than Patricia or I did. "Mom, Derek told me everything. He is really worried about you. Worried about me? I kept my voice calm. Susan, he tried to spend $670,000 without my permission. He said you gave him the card. He said you have been acting strange for months, forgetting things, getting confused. And Mom, you did forget my birthday last month. That stung because it was true. I had forgotten Susan's 40th birthday. I had been deep in grief over Gordon, lost in memories, and the date had slipped past me entirely. Susan had called me the day after, her voice tight and hurt, and I had felt terrible. I was grieving, Susan. That does not mean I am incompetent. Nobody is saying incompetent. But Derek thinks maybe you should consider giving him power of attorney, just for financial decisions, just so someone is watching out for you. Dad would have wanted someone to take care of you. The mention of Gordon made my eyes burn. Your father would want me to protect what we built together, not hand it over to someone who tried to steal from me. Steal is a really strong word, Mom. He is your son. He is family. And he says Brielle really is pregnant. They are getting married next month. They need help. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the wall. My own daughter thought I should give Derek control of my money. My own daughter believed I was losing my mind. Patricia came over that afternoon. We sat in my living room drinking tea while I tried not to fall apart. Susan called me after she talked to you, Patricia said. She thinks Derek is right. She thinks you should let him help manage your finances. It is not help when someone takes your bank card without permission, Patricia. I know, Mom. I am on your side. But I need to tell you something. Patricia set down her teacup. Derek called me too. He said Brielle really is pregnant. They really are getting married. They are having financial problems, and they need $20,000 or $30,000 to get started. Then he should have asked me like an adult, not stolen my card. I agree, but Mom, what are you going to do? This is tearing the family apart. I thought about it, prayed about it, stewed over it for 2 more days. Finally, I decided to try one more time. I would go to Derek's apartment with Patricia. We would have a calm conversation. I would bring a reasonable offer, $20,000 for baby expenses and wedding costs. We would work this out like a family. We drove to Derek's apartment complex on a Saturday afternoon. It was one of those new buildings near downtown, the kind with a pool and a fitness center. Derek's truck was in his assigned parking spot. Brielle answered the door. She was wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, her hair in a messy bun. She did not look pregnant, but it was probably too early to show. Derek is not home, she said flatly. His truck is right there. Patricia pointed at the parking lot. He went for a walk. He does not want to see you. Brielle, please. I tried to keep my voice gentle. We just want to talk. I want to help you and Derek. I brought an offer. Something flickered across her face. Triumph, maybe. She pulled out her phone. You mean like the offer you made at the dealership? When you accused Derek of stealing and caused a huge scene? She turned the phone toward us. On the screen was a video. It was me at Premier Motors, but the angle was strange. The audio was choppy. She had edited it. In this version, I looked aggressive and confused. Harold, the manager, looked concerned. Derek looked like a worried son trying to help his unstable mother. My voice, taken out of context, sounded paranoid and rambling. I recorded the whole thing, Brielle said, her voice cold and satisfied. And I can post this online anytime I want. Show everyone what kind of grandmother this baby is going to have. A confused, mean old woman who cares more about money than her own family. She stepped back and slammed the door in our faces. Patricia and I stood there in the hallway, stunned. We walked back to my car in silence. Once we were inside with the doors closed, Patricia turned to me. Mom, that video looks really bad. Even though I was not there, and I believe your version, that video makes you look unstable. I gripped the steering wheel. She edited it. She set this up. I know, but people who do not know the whole story will not know that. I drove home with a knot in my stomach, realizing for the first time that this was not just a family disagreement. This was deliberate, calculated. I was being manipulated and framed, and I had no idea how to fight back. The following week, I did the only thing I could think of. I called a lawyer. Martin Shepard had handled Gordon's will 3 years ago. He was 58 years old, with gray hair and a calm, steady voice that made you feel like everything would be okay. Tell me exactly what happened, Martin said, leaning back in his leather chair in his office on 3rd Street. I explained everything. The card, the dealership, the protection on my account, Derek's threats, the edited video, the social media posts. Martin took notes and asked questions. Mrs. Dalton, here is the situation. Proving theft in family situations is extremely difficult. Derek claims you gave him permission. You say you did not. Without witnesses, it becomes he said, she said. However, the bank's protection did its job. No money was actually stolen. But he tried to steal it. Attempted theft is hard to prosecute, especially against a family member. Most prosecutors would not touch this, but we can take protective steps. Change all your passwords and PINs, get new cards issued. Document everything. If Derek threatens you again, we might consider a restraining order. What about the video Brielle took? That is concerning. If she posts it and it is truly edited to misrepresent what happened, we could potentially sue for defamation. But again, it would be expensive and difficult to prove. I left his office with a plan. First, protect my accounts. Second, document everything. Third, hope this blew over, and Derek came to his senses. 2 days later, I went to Pinnacle Bank. I sat with the bank manager, a woman named Carol Winters, and explained that I needed to close my old accounts and open new ones. New account numbers, new cards, new passwords, everything fresh. I am sorry you are going through this, Mrs. Dalton, Carol said, typing into her computer. Unfortunately, elder financial exploitation is more common than people realize. You did the right thing setting up those protections. I left the bank feeling like I had handled it. My money was safe now. Derek could not touch it. Maybe now he would give up and we could work on healing our relationship. I was so naive. 4 days later, a courier knocked on my door at 9 in the morning. He handed me a large manila envelope and asked me to sign for it. Inside were legal papers, a lawsuit, against me. My hands shook as I read, Derek James Dalton and Brielle Marie Hartwell, petitioners, versus Geraldine Ann Dalton, respondent. They were suing me for elder abuse by financial hoarding. They were filing for emergency conservatorship, claiming I was mentally incompetent and could not manage my own affairs. The petition was 23 pages long. It listed evidence, the edited video from the dealership, a statement from Susan supporting Derek's claims about my forgetfulness and confusion, and a letter from a doctor. I read the doctor's letter 3 times, my heart pounding harder each time. It was from Dr. Raymond Phillips, a geriatric specialist. The letter stated that he had evaluated me 3 weeks ago and found significant signs of cognitive decline, memory impairment, and poor judgment. He recommended I no longer manage my own financial affairs. I had never met Dr. Raymond Phillips. I had never been evaluated by him. This letter was completely fraudulent. The lawyer representing Derek and Brielle was listed at the bottom of the petition. Lawrence Hartwell, attorney at law, Brielle's father, the lawyer Derek had mentioned in the parking lot. I called Martin immediately, my voice shaking so badly I could barely get the words out. They are suing me. They are trying to take control of everything. Martin told me to bring the papers to his office right away. An hour later, I sat across from him while he read through the entire petition, his expression growing more serious with each page. This is aggressive, he said finally. Very aggressive. The conservatorship hearing is scheduled for 3 weeks from now. If they win, Derek would have complete control over your finances. You could not access your own money without his approval. But that doctor's letter is fake. I never saw that doctor. Then we need to prove it. Get your medical records from your actual doctor. Get an evaluation from a reputable geriatric specialist showing you are competent. We can fight this, Mrs. Dalton. But it is going to be expensive. Conservatorship cases can drag on for months. Legal fees can easily reach $30,000 or $40,000. I felt sick. They were forcing me to spend my own money to defend my right to keep my own money. Over the next week, things got worse. Susan called and admitted she had signed a statement for Derek's lawyer. She said someone needed to watch out for me, that she was doing this because she loved me. You have so much money, Mom, Susan said, more than you could ever spend. Why are you holding on to it so tightly? Dad would want you to help your children. Your father would want me to be smart about money. He would want me to protect what we worked for. All I know is you are being selfish. My husband and I struggle with our mortgage every month. Derek and Brielle are about to have a baby. Patricia is paying for college alone after her divorce. And you sit on almost $700,000 like a dragon on a pile of gold. Her words hurt more than I expected. After we hung up, I cried for an hour. I followed Martin's advice. I made an appointment with my regular doctor, Helen Yates, for a full evaluation. I gathered all my bank statements to prove I had been managing my finances perfectly well. I documented every conversation, every text message, every social media post. I was preparing to fight. The day before my appointment with Dr. Yates, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Derek and Brielle standing on my porch. Behind them was a woman in a county ID badge. I opened the door slowly. "Derek?" "Mom, this is Janet Morrison from Adult Protective Services. We need to come in." My blood turned to ice. "Adult Protective Services?" Janet stepped forward, her expression professional but not unkind. "Mrs. Dalton, we received a complaint that you may be living in unsafe conditions and neglecting your own care. I am required to do a home inspection. Who filed a complaint?" "I cannot disclose that. May I come in?" I had no choice. I let them in, watching as Brielle's eyes swept across my living room with barely concealed satisfaction. Janet walked through my house, taking notes. She looked in my refrigerator and found some expired milk and old leftovers I had forgotten about. She noticed some clutter in the guest room, where I had been sorting Gordon's belongings. She saw a stack of mail on my counter that included an overdue utility bill I had missed. The whole time, Derek and Brielle stood in my living room like they owned the place. I watched Brielle take out her phone and snap photos of the clutter, the expired food, the unpaid bill. "Mrs. Dalton," Janet said when she finished, "these are relatively minor issues, but they do raise some concerns. I am required to file a report. I recommend you address these items immediately." After they left, I sat on my couch and stared at nothing. They were building a case against me. Piece by piece, lie by lie, they were painting a picture of an incompetent old woman who could not take care of herself. That evening, Derek called me. His voice was calm, reasonable. "Mom, just make this easy on yourself. Give me access to the accounts and we will drop everything. The lawsuit, the APS complaint, all of it. You can keep living in your house. We will just manage the money for you. Make sure you are taken care of. It is what Dad would have wanted." "No." My voice surprised me with its steadiness. "This is extortion, Derek, and I will not give in." He hung up without another word. The stress was killing me. Literally, I could feel it in my chest, in my head, in the way my hands trembled when I tried to hold a coffee cup. I could not sleep more than 3 or 4 hours a night. Food tasted like cardboard. I lost 12 pounds in 2 weeks without trying, but I kept fighting. I had my appointment with Dr. Yates. She did a full cognitive assessment, tested my memory, checked my blood pressure. Everything came back normal except my blood pressure, which was dangerously high from stress. "Jerry, you are under enormous pressure," Dr. Yates said, "but cognitively, you are fine. Sharp as ever. I will write a letter for your lawyer confirming this." That should have been good news. It was good news. But 2 days later, Martin called with bad news that overshadowed the good. "Mrs. Dalton, there has been a development. Derek and his lawyer filed an emergency motion claiming you are paranoid and wasting your assets. They say you hired a private investigator to follow them." "I did hire an investigator," I said. "His name is Frank Cordero. I need to know what they are planning. I need evidence that Brielle is not actually pregnant and that this whole thing is a scam." "I understand. But Judge Franklin Mercer, who is assigned to your case, granted their motion. He issued a partial freeze on your accounts. You can only spend up to $2,000 per month without court approval." The room spun. $2,000? "Martin, my property taxes are due next month. That is $4,000 alone. You can petition the court for specific expenses. But this is serious. Judge Mercer is known for being very protective of elderly people. Sometimes that works in our favor, sometimes against us. He has granted conservatorships before in situations like this. What do I do?" "Keep documenting everything. I will file a motion to lift the freeze. But Mrs. Dalton, I need to discuss my fees." You owe me $15,000 so far. With the account restrictions, how will you pay? I felt the walls closing in. Can I pay you after this is resolved? I am sorry, but no. My firm's policy requires payment for services rendered. If you cannot pay, I may have to withdraw from your case. 2 days later, my credit card was declined at the grocery store. The cashier ran it 3 times while people in line behind me shifted impatiently. Finally, I handed her cash, my face burning with humiliation. When I got home, I called the credit card company. They said all my cards had been frozen per court order. I had access to one debit card with a $2,000 monthly limit. That was it. Martin called the next day. I hate to do this, Mrs. Dalton, but without payment, I cannot continue representing you. I am filing a motion to withdraw from your case. Martin, please. Give me 1 more week. I will figure something out. I am sorry. I have to run a business. I recommend you contact legal aid or try to find a pro bono attorney. After he hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and cried. I had no lawyer, no access to my money, a court hearing in less than 2 weeks. My family had turned against me, except for Patricia, and even Patricia could not help financially because she was struggling herself after her divorce and with her daughter's college tuition. The neighbors were avoiding me now. Word had spread through the community. At church on Sunday, only a few people spoke to me. Most looked away. The pastor's wife pulled me aside and gently suggested that sometimes children know what is best for their aging parents. I felt completely alone. That night, my blood pressure spiked so high I ended up in the emergency room. Patricia found me passed out in my kitchen and called an ambulance. The ER doctor said I was having a hypertensive crisis. They gave me medication and kept me for 6 hours. Of course, Derek and Susan showed up at the hospital. I woke from a medicated doze to find them talking to the ER doctor in the hallway. I could not hear what they said, but I saw Susan hand the doctor some papers. Later, Patricia told me they had given the doctor a copy of the conservatorship petition, trying to convince him I needed family supervision for medical decisions too. The ER visit cost me $3,000, more than my entire monthly spending limit. Over the next few days, I sank into despair. I could not afford a lawyer. I could not access my own money to pay for one. I was going to show up at that hearing alone, facing Derek and his lawyer and his fake evidence and his lies, and I was going to lose everything. I thought about Gordon constantly. What would he do? What would he want me to do? I sat in our bedroom, the room we had shared for 43 years, and stared at his picture on the nightstand. I do not know how to fight this, I whispered to his photograph. I am so tired. 5 days before the hearing, I was going through my desk looking for old bank statements that might help my case. Anything. Any scrap of evidence that I was competent, that I had been managing fine until Derek started this nightmare. In the back of the bottom drawer, behind folders of tax returns and insurance papers, I found an envelope. It was cream-colored, thick paper. On the front, in Gordon's handwriting, it said, "For Jerry, if you ever need it." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter in Gordon's careful script, dated 2 months before he died. My dearest Jerry, if you are reading this, something has gone wrong. I have been thinking a lot lately about what happens to you after I am gone. I worry about you being alone. I worry about people taking advantage of your kind heart. I have noticed some things about Derek over the past year. The way he asks for money. The way he gets angry when I suggest he should budget better. I do not want to believe our son would ever hurt you, but I am not naive. People do strange things when money is involved. So I did something without telling you. I set up a second trust account at First National Bank. Account number 749211683. There is $130,000 in it. The account is in your name only, with special instructions. It can only be used for legal defense if anyone ever tries to take advantage of you financially. I am protecting you, my love, even after I am gone. The password is your mother's maiden name plus our wedding year. I hope you never need this, but if you do, use it. Fight back. Do not let anyone take what we built together. I love you forever. Gordon. I read the letter 4 times, tears streaming down my face. Gordon had known. He had seen something in Derek even back then. He had protected me from the grave. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and called Martin at 10 o'clock at night. Mrs. Dalton, I told you. I cannot. I have money. A trust account. $130,000 my husband set up. It is specifically for legal defense. Can you represent me again? There was a pause. How soon can you get me documentation of this account? Tomorrow morning. First thing. Then, yes, I will represent you. And Mrs. Dalton, call Frank Cordero, that private investigator. Tell him to get every piece of evidence he can find by the day of the hearing. Money is no longer an issue. After we hung up, I sat there in Gordon's old office chair, holding his letter, feeling his love wrap around me like a blanket. He had saved me. One last time, my husband had saved me. I called Frank Cordero at 10:15. Frank, this is Jerry Dalton. I need you to dig into everything about Brielle Hartwell and her father Lawrence. I need proof that she is lying about being pregnant. I need proof that they have done this before. I need ammunition. And I can pay you whatever it takes. Give me 4 days, Frank said. I will find everything. For the first time in weeks, I felt a tiny spark of hope. The hearing was in 5 days. I had a lawyer again. I had an investigator working for me. I had Gordon's love reaching across death to protect me. I was not going down without a fight. The next 4 days passed in a blur of frantic preparation. Martin subpoenaed my medical records from Dr. Yates. We compiled financial statements proving I had been managing my money perfectly well for years. We documented every conversation with Derek, every threatening text, every social media post. Patricia came over every evening to help me organize. We worked at the kitchen table, sorting papers, making copies, building my defense piece by piece. Mom, you are going to win this, Patricia said on the third night. The truth is on your side. I wanted to believe her, but every time my phone rang with an unknown number, my stomach clenched. Every time I saw Derek's name on social media, my chest tightened. Frank called on the morning of the 4th day. Mrs. Dalton, I have found some things. Can I come by? He arrived an hour later, carrying a folder thick with documents. We sat at my kitchen table while he laid out what he had discovered. First, Brielle is not pregnant. I confirmed this through her gynecologist's office. She was prescribed birth control pills 3 weeks ago. The receptionist who scheduled her appointment was very chatty. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by rage. They had lied about a baby, used the idea of my grandchild to manipulate me. Second, Brielle has done this before. I found her ex-boyfriend's mother, a woman named Dorothy Grant in Ohio. Dorothy says Brielle dated her son for a year. Brielle convinced the son that his mother was sitting on a large inheritance and should help them buy a house. When Dorothy refused, Brielle talked the son into trying to get power of attorney, claiming Dorothy was declining mentally. Dorothy had to hire a lawyer to fight them off. Eventually, her son came to his senses and broke up with Brielle. Dorothy has agreed to testify if needed. Third, Lawrence Hartwell, Brielle's father. He has been suspended from practicing law twice, once for misappropriating client funds, once for falsifying documents in a divorce case. He got his license back both times, but his reputation is questionable at best. Frank spread out more papers. Fourth, and this is big, your son Derek has significant gambling debts. He owes $48,000 to various casinos and online betting sites. This gives him a clear financial motive. Gambling? I stared at the papers showing Derek's debts. I did not know he gambled. Most people hide it well. But this explains why he needs money so desperately. What about the fake doctor's letter? I'm still working on that. Dr. Raymond Phillips exists and is a legitimate geriatric specialist. But I spoke with his office manager. She has no record of you ever being a patient. Someone used his credentials to create a fake evaluation. That is a serious crime. I felt the first real surge of hope. This was evidence. Real, concrete evidence that could expose Derek and Brielle's lies. How much of this can you have ready for the hearing tomorrow? Frank grimaced. That is the problem. I have leads, but I need more time to get sworn statements, depositions, official records. I can get you some of this, but not everything. Give me another 2 weeks and I can build an airtight case. The hearing is tomorrow, Frank. I know. I will bring what I have. But Mrs. Dalton, it might not be enough. Judge Mercer is going to want solid, unimpeachable proof. What I have so far is strong, but it is not ironclad. That evening, Susan called. Her voice was different, uncertain. "Mom, I need to talk to you. Can I come over?" She arrived 30 minutes later. We sat in my living room, the same room where she had played as a child, where we had celebrated Christmases and birthdays and graduations. "I have been thinking a lot about this whole situation," Susan said slowly, "about what Derek is doing. And I think maybe I made a mistake." "You think maybe?" "I was angry, Mom, about you forgetting my birthday, about you having so much money while we struggle. It felt unfair. Derek made it sound like you were being irrational and difficult. But today I saw something on Derek's computer when I was at his apartment. Gambling websites. And Brielle was talking on the phone about a shopping spree she wants to take once they get your money. They were laughing about it." She looked at me, tears in her eyes. "They are using you, Mom. And I helped them do it. I signed a statement saying you were incompetent. I told their lawyer about times you forgot things or seemed confused. I was so stupid." "Yes, you were. I did not soften it. She deserved to hear the truth. I am sorry. I am so sorry. What can I do to fix this?" "You can call Martin Shepard and tell him you want to recant your statement. You can tell him what you saw on Derek's computer. You can testify at the hearing tomorrow." Susan nodded, wiping her eyes. "I will. I promise. Mom, I never wanted you to lose your house or your independence. I just thought Derek was trying to help." After she left, I sat alone in the quiet house. Tomorrow was the hearing. Tomorrow my entire future would be decided by a judge I had never met, based on lies told by my own son. I picked up Gordon's letter and read it again. "Fight back," he had written. "Do not let anyone take what we built together." "I am fighting, Gordon," I whispered to the empty room. "I am fighting as hard as I can." The courthouse was a gray stone building downtown, built in the 1930s with marble floors and high ceilings that made every footstep echo. I arrived at 8:30 for the 9 o'clock hearing, wearing my best navy dress and the pearl necklace Gordon had given me for our 30th anniversary. Martin met me at the courthouse steps, carrying his briefcase. Patricia was with him. She had taken the day off work to be there. "Are you ready?" Martin asked. "As ready as I will ever be." We walked through security and took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Family Court, Division 4, Judge Franklin Mercer presiding. Derek was already there when we entered the courtroom. He wore a suit I had never seen before, probably borrowed. Brielle sat next to him in a modest dress, her hair pulled back, looking innocent and young. Susan sat in the gallery, her face pale but determined. Lawrence Hartwell stood at the petitioner's table in an expensive suit, arranging papers with confident, practiced movements. Judge Mercer entered at precisely 9 o'clock. He was in his late 60s, with white hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. He had a reputation for being fair but conservative, erring on the side of protecting vulnerable adults even when it meant restricting their freedoms. "This is a petition for conservatorship," Judge Mercer began. "I have reviewed the preliminary filings. Mr. Hartwell, you may present your case." Lawrence stood. He was smooth, practiced, persuasive. He presented the edited video from the dealership. Judge Mercer watched it carefully, his expression unreadable. "As you can see, Your Honor, Mrs. Dalton appears confused and agitated. She does not seem to understand that she gave her son permission to use her bank card." He presented the Adult Protective Services report. An inspection of Mrs. Dalton's home found expired food, unpaid bills, and general neglect of her living environment. He presented Susan's original statement, though Susan shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Mrs. Dalton's own daughter expressed concern about her mother's declining mental state and memory issues. He presented the emergency room records. Mrs. Dalton's blood pressure was dangerously high, suggesting she is not taking proper care of her health. Finally, he presented the fake letter from Dr. Phillips. A geriatric specialist evaluated Mrs. Dalton and found significant cognitive decline. It was devastating. Piece by piece, Lawrence painted a picture of an incompetent old woman who needed protection from herself. Derek sat there looking like the concerned, loving son. Brielle dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I felt sick. Martin stood for cross-examination. He started with Derek. "Mr. Dalton, can you explain exactly how you obtained your mother's bank card?" "She gave it to me when she was sick with pneumonia. She asked me to keep it safe. And she explicitly told you to spend $670,000 on a luxury car?" She said Brielle needed a safe car. She said to pick something nice. Did you know about the security protections on that account? No. I thought she had given me permission, so I did not think there would be a problem. Martin questioned Susan next. She took the stand nervously. Miss Dalton, you signed a statement supporting your brother's petition. Do you still stand by that statement? Susan glanced at Derek, then at me. No, I want to recant it. I was angry and I did not have all the facts. My mother is not incompetent. My brother has gambling debts, and I think he is using this situation to get access to her money. Lawrence jumped up. Objection. This witness is clearly biased and has been influenced by the respondent. Sustained, Judge Mercer said. The jury will disregard that last comment. He paused. Wait, there is no jury. I will disregard that comment. Miss Dalton, please stick to your own observations. Martin tried to salvage it, but the damage was done. Susan's recantation looked like I had pressured her to change her story. When it was my turn to testify, my legs shook as I walked to the witness stand. I swore to tell the truth and sat down, gripping the armrests to keep my hands steady. Martin asked me to tell my side of the story. I explained about the card, about never giving Derek permission, about the bank's protections that I had set up myself. I explained that I had been managing my finances perfectly well until this lawsuit drained my resources. I thought I sounded credible, honest, reasonable. Then Lawrence cross-examined me. Mrs. Dalton, you had expired food in your refrigerator. Can you explain that? I forgot about it. I was sorting through my late husband's belongings and I missed some items. You forgot to pay a utility bill. Why? It was one bill, one time. It was not a pattern. You forgot your daughter's 40th birthday. I was grieving. I made a mistake. You were hospitalized for a hypertensive crisis. Because of the stress from this lawsuit that my son filed against me, you do not remember giving your son the bank card. Because I never gave it to him. Or because you forgot. Mrs. Dalton, you had severe pneumonia 6 weeks ago. You were heavily medicated. Is it possible you gave your son the card and do not remember? I paused. It was possible. The medication had been strong. There were gaps in my memory from that time. I do not believe I did. But you are not certain. I am certain I would not have told him to spend $670,000. Lawrence smiled slightly. Perhaps you said something else. Perhaps you said something he misunderstood. Perhaps your memory of that entire period is unreliable due to illness and medication. Mrs. Dalton, is it possible you need help managing your affairs? Not because you are a bad person, but because you are aging and vulnerable and your children love you and want to protect you. I wanted to scream that my son was trying to steal from me, that Brielle was not even pregnant, that this was all a scam. But sitting there under Lawrence's questioning, with Judge Mercer watching me carefully, I just felt old and tired and uncertain. I do not need protection, I said quietly. I need my family to stop lying about me. Judge Mercer called a lunch recess. We had an hour and a half. Martin, Patricia, and I went to a diner across the street, but I could not eat. My stomach was in knots. How do you think it is going? I asked Martin. Honestly, not great. Judge Mercer seems sympathetic to Derek's side. We need something concrete to turn this around. Frank should be here with the evidence, if he found enough. Mrs. Dalton, prepare yourself. We might lose this. We returned to the courthouse at 1:30. As we walked through the courthouse doors, Frank appeared from the hallway, nearly running. He was carrying a thick folder and looked disheveled. I got it, he said breathlessly. All of it. Sworn statements, medical records, everything. Judge Mercer reconvened court at 2 o'clock. Martin immediately requested to present new evidence. Lawrence objected. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. We should have received this evidence in discovery. Mr. Shepard? Judge Mercer looked at Martin over his reading glasses. Your Honor, this evidence was only obtained in the past 24 hours. It is crucial to establishing the truth of this situation. I request permission to present it and call one additional witness. Judge Mercer thought for a moment. I will allow it, but Mr. Shepard, this had better be relevant. Martin called Frank to the stand. Frank was sworn in and began his testimony methodically, professionally. I am a licensed private investigator. Mrs. Dalton hired me to investigate the circumstances of this case. I discovered several crucial facts. He presented medical records. Miss Hartwell is not pregnant. These are records from her gynecologist showing she was prescribed birth control pills 3 weeks ago. Brielle gasped audibly. Derek's face went white. Frank continued, I obtained a sworn statement from Dorothy Grant in Ohio. Miss Hartwell previously dated Miss Grant's son and attempted a similar scheme to gain access to Miss Grant's assets through claims of mental incompetence. He presented Lawrence's Bar Association records. Mr. Hartwell has been suspended from practicing law twice for ethical violations, including falsifying documents. He presented Derek's gambling records. Mr. Dalton has $48,000 in gambling debts, providing clear financial motivation for this conservatorship attempt. Finally, he presented a statement from Dr. Phillips's office. Dr. Raymond Phillips never evaluated Mrs. Dalton. His office has no record of her ever being a patient. The letter presented as evidence is fraudulent. The courtroom was silent. Lawrence was on his feet, objecting, arguing, but Judge Mercer waved him quiet. Mr. Hartwell, did you know this evaluation letter was fraudulent? Your Honor, I received that letter from my client. I had no reason to believe. You did not verify it with the doctor's office? You did not check to see if your client was telling the truth? Lawrence stammered. Derek and Brielle were whispering urgently to each other. Brielle looked like she wanted to bolt from the courtroom. Judge Mercer called Martin and Lawrence to the bench. They spoke in low voices for several minutes. When they returned to their tables, Judge Mercer's expression was stern. I am going to call a 15-minute recess. When we return, I will issue my ruling. Those 15 minutes felt like 15 hours. Patricia held my hand. Martin reviewed his notes. Across the aisle, Derek and Brielle were having what looked like a vicious argument in whispers. Susan sat in the gallery, crying quietly. When Judge Mercer returned, the bailiff called everyone to order. The judge looked at Derek and Brielle with an expression that could freeze water. I have reviewed all the evidence presented today. I find the following facts. Miss Hartwell is not pregnant. The medical evaluation presented by the petitioners is fraudulent. Mr. Dalton has significant gambling debts that provide clear motive for financial exploitation, and Mrs. Dalton shows no signs of mental incompetence. He turned to me. Mrs. Dalton, I apologize that you were put through this ordeal. The petition for conservatorship is denied. The freeze on your accounts is lifted immediately. Furthermore, I am ordering Mr. Dalton and Miss Hartwell to pay your legal fees and investigative costs. Relief crashed over me like a wave. Patricia squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. Judge Mercer was not finished. I am also referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation of fraud and elder abuse. Mr. Hartwell, I am reporting your conduct to the State Bar Association. Using a falsified medical document in court proceedings is a serious ethical violation. I suggest you consult with your own attorney. He banged his gavel. This matter is concluded. The hallway outside the courtroom erupted into chaos. Brielle screamed at Derek, her sweet, innocent facade completely gone. You idiot. You absolute idiot. You told me this would work. You said your mother was an easy mark. You said your father knew what he was doing, Derek shouted back. This is your fault. All of it. Brielle was crying angry tears now, her makeup running. I am done. We are done. I am not getting dragged into your mess. She stormed off toward the elevator, her heels clicking on the marble floor. Derek stood there watching her go, looking lost and broken. He turned to me. Our eyes met across the hallway. For a moment, I saw my little boy again. The child I had raised, had loved, had sacrificed for. Then I saw what he had become. What he had chosen to become. Mom, he started. Do not, I said quietly. Do not apologize now. Not here. Not like this. I made a mistake. I got desperate. The gambling, it got out of control, and You tried to take everything from me, Derek. You tried to have me declared incompetent. You were willing to put me in a facility and sell my home. Over gambling debts. Brielle. She convinced me that... Stop. Brielle did not force you to steal my bank card. She did not force you to lie in court. You made those choices. Tears ran down his face. I am your son. Yes, I said. You are my son, and I love you. But you made your choices. Now you have to live with them." I turned and walked away with Patricia and Martin. Behind me, I heard Derek sob once, a broken sound that tore at my heart even as I kept walking. Susan caught up with me at the elevator. "Mom, I am so sorry. I should have believed you from the start." "Yes, you should have. Can we work on fixing this? Our relationship?" I looked at her. My youngest daughter. She looked genuinely remorseful. But trust, once broken, does not just magically repair itself. "I forgive you, Susan. But things are not going to be the same between us. Not for a long time. You chose your brother over me. You signed a statement saying I was incompetent. That does not just go away." "I understand," she whispered. Martin walked me to my car. "You did it, Mrs. Dalton. You fought back and you won." "Gordon did it," I said, touching the locket around my neck that held his picture. "He protected me, even after he was gone." Over the next few weeks, the fallout continued. Lawrence Hartwell's law license was suspended pending a full ethics investigation. The district attorney charged Brielle with attempted fraud and elder abuse. Derek was not charged criminally, but he owed me $32,000 in legal fees. He had to sell his truck and most of his possessions to start paying it back. Frank called me 2 weeks after the hearing with additional news. Brielle took a plea deal. She got 2 years probation and has to pay restitution. She is also being investigated in Ohio for the scheme she ran there. Your case broke it all open. My accounts were restored. All $655,000, minus the $15,000 I had spent on legal fees before discovering Gordon's trust. I closed my accounts at Pinnacle Bank and moved everything to a new bank with even stronger security measures. I set up a proper trust with Martin's help, making sure no one could ever access my money again without proper legal authorization. Patricia became my designated power of attorney, by my choice, with clear instructions that she was only to act if I became truly incapacitated. Family gatherings were awkward at best, non-existent at worst. Patricia and I grew closer. Susan and I maintained a polite distance. Derek sent letters, apologizing, updating me on his court-ordered therapy for his gambling addiction. I read them, but I did not respond. Not yet. Maybe someday, but not yet. The hardest part was not the money or the legal battle. It was losing my son. Not to death, but to his own choices. Grief for the living is different than grief for the dead. When someone dies, you can hold on to the good memories without complications. When someone betrays you but is still alive, the good memories are tainted by what they became. I joined a support group for survivors of elder financial abuse. There were 12 of us who met every Tuesday evening at the community center. Hearing other people's stories helped. Knowing I was not alone helped. I shared my story too, and watched others nod in recognition. This happens more than people realize. Sons and daughters, grandchildren, even spouses, trying to take what their elderly family members worked their whole lives to build. I started speaking at community events about elder rights and financial protections. I told people about the safeguards you can put on your accounts, about the warning signs of financial exploitation, about how important it is to have a plan before you need one. 6 months after the hearing, I was sitting in my garden on a warm Saturday afternoon. The roses Gordon had planted were in full bloom. Patricia came over with her daughter, my granddaughter Emma, who was 17 and applying to colleges. We had lunch on the patio, chicken salad sandwiches and lemonade. We talked about Emma's college essays and Patricia's new job and the trip to Alaska I was planning for next spring. "Grandma, can I ask you something?" Emma said. "How did you stay so strong during everything with Uncle Derek?" I thought about it. I almost did not. There were days I wanted to give up. Days I thought about just letting him have the money so the fighting would stop. But then I would think about your grandfather, about everything he and I built together, about how hard we worked. And I realized that giving up would dishonor his memory. It would dishonor my own worth. So you fought back. I fought back. And I learned something important. Protecting yourself is not selfish. Setting boundaries is not mean. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest, and you have to love yourself enough to say no. After they left, I sat in the garden alone, watching the evening light turn golden on the roses. I picked up my phone and looked at a text message from Derek that had come that morning. "Mom, I am 1 year sober today. 1 year without gambling. I got a job as a warehouse manager. I am paying you back $50 every week. I know it will take years to repay what I owe. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I want you to know I am trying to be better. I am trying to be the son Dad would have been proud of. I love you." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed a response. "I am proud that you are sober. Keep working on yourself. Maybe someday we can talk, but not yet." I sent it and set down my phone. Forgiveness is complicated. It does not mean forgetting. It does not mean allowing someone back into your life to hurt you again. It means releasing the poison of hatred so it does not destroy you from the inside. I could forgive Derek someday, maybe, but I could also protect myself. Both things could be true at the same time. That evening, I pulled out Gordon's letter and read it one more time. "Fight back," he had written. "Do not let anyone take what we built together." "I fought, Gordon," I whispered, "and I won. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for loving me enough to plan ahead. Thank you for being the man you were." I folded the letter carefully and put it back in its envelope. Then I went to my computer and booked a flight to Alaska for next April. Gordon had always wanted to see Alaska. The glaciers, the wildlife, the untouched wilderness. We had planned to go for our 40th anniversary, but he got sick before we could make the trip. I was going to go for both of us. I was going to live the life we had dreamed of. I was going to use the money we had saved, the money I had fought so hard to protect, to create joy and adventure and meaning. I was 67 years old. I had been through hell and come out the other side. I had lost my husband, fought my own son, and won my freedom. And I was just getting started. Have you ever had to stand up to someone you love to protect yourself? How did you find the strength to set boundaries when it mattered most? I would love to hear your story in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life stories about overcoming adversity and finding strength in difficult times. Share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you for listening to my story. I wish you the courage to protect what matters and the wisdom to know your own worth. Take care of yourselves and remember, you are stronger than you think.